It's March 15, 2018. At 12:57 a.m., one of the biggest public figures of the 21st century tweets this: "Playing Fortnite with Ninja." Now, the majority of you don't need me to explain how monumental this was for live streaming. It destroyed records, got national attention and headlines, further blew up Fortnite into the mainstream, and made Twitch who knows how much money, and even had Discord execs starstruck about the very idea of Drake using their platform. About 12 hours later, Jeff Kaylee, I think I'm mispronouncing that probably, mostly known for hosting the Game Awards, says, "Video games are popular culture. Last night was proof of this." Was Ninja playing Fortnite with Drake that powerful and big to make video games into the mainstream, or to suddenly become popular culture? I would have to disagree with this train of thought. I'm sorry, Jeff. As much as I enjoy you announcing one game I even remotely care about every couple Game Awards, I don't think it was video games that became popular culture that day. The Ninja and Drake stream was the start of streaming becoming the giant industry it is within culture today. Live streaming in 2024 has completely absorbed itself into the mainstream, and not even just talking about the culture, but the industry itself. And I know we are citing that Ninja and Drake stream as a start of that, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it the moment it happened, if that makes sense. It was more of the first stone being put down for a wall. Live stream has gone from a thing that could never be seen as a serious career into a genuine avenue for influence and to be a real public figure in such a rapid way that's quite frankly insane to see. And I want to talk about it. How did we get to where we are today? Where streamers go on world tours, have the biggest celebrities on their streams consistently, having meet and greets where cities are shut down, having award shows with red carpets and live audiences. How did live streaming become cool? To understand why I'm so interested in the insane cultural relevancy live streaming has had recently is because live streaming has always kind of been stuck in that gamer box or nerd culture box. It's kind of how comic books got out of that pretty recently with the MCU hitting the mainstream, and how it was finally able to get itself out of that complete nerd culture thing. Live streaming for the longest time has always had this label. It's always had that attached to it. And it's always been inherently tied to gaming, which is then tied to nerd culture. And to be fair, it kind of is the main platform's fault, like Twitch, and I can't blame it for doing that. It made it work. Tying yourself to a niche and tying yourself and marketing yourself to that niche makes sense. And it's why Twitch has the culture and it has the industry share that it has today. But to pretend that there was even a chance that live streaming could ever come out of that 6 or 8 years ago is just insane to me, honestly. The thing with the Ninja stream is that it was very important, yes, and it was a catalyst for where we are now, but there's a reason why it didn't really have that same blow up that we're seeing now. Ninja bridged the gap between live streaming and the mainstream the same way people like PewDiePie did in the early 2000s with YouTube. It was always within the realm of nerd culture. They were almost like pseudo-celebrities. They weren't really held in the same regard as real celebrities or whatever. They were never really able to break out of that, either being them simply not wanting to or the ridicule they saw for trying so. Like Ninja trying to host the New Year's of 2018, I believe. That disaster is a perfect example of this. I'm not trying to discredit Ninja's career or what he accomplished for the industry. Before Ninja, the very thought of a guy playing video games in his room talking to the screen for 6 hours a day, being invited to front court seats of the NBA All-Star game, was something out of fantasy. What Ninja did for the industry publicly truly cannot be understated. But as much as Ninja did for making live streaming known to the wider public during his reign in 2018, everything would change the day he signed and went to stream on Mixer exclusively on August 1st, 2019. Now, if you have no idea what Mixer is, then I don't blame you. It was a really weird time to be in the live streaming community as a fan. It was pretty rough out here. Basically, Mixer was Microsoft's really bad attempt at making a Twitch competitor. And at the time where YouTube live streaming wasn't really a thing yet, Kick didn't really exist, thank God, and Twitch kind of had this iron grip on the industry. So Mixer's plan to make a real competitor of Twitch was to offer the highest contracts to the biggest streamers. And it worked for the most part. They got Ninja and Shroud, two of the biggest, if not the biggest streamers on Twitch at the time, and what was this movement from big corporations to invest heavily into live streaming content. After the move to Mixer, Ninja saw a pretty rapid fall off. Hey, it's Air to Angle here. Just want to say that it was actually like surprisingly hard to find like good, accurate stats on Ninja's time on Mixer. I found this one site that's pretty good, but it isn't like month to month for like super precise. But shout out to that site anyway. It looks really nice and it's displayed nicely for y'all. And yeah, anyway. Back to the video, please subscribe or check out the Patreon, please. To how unpopular Mixer was as a platform. It really had no community base, nothing really other than it being the competitor to Twitch. It really never sought to build a community organically, it just sought to buy out the communities Twitch already built up with Shroud and Ninja, for example. Fast forward to 2020 and Mixer is no longer a thing. Shroud and Ninja are back both streaming on Twitch, but even with them back, things weren't really the same. The industry had shifted greatly, mainly due to the 2020 pandemic. It had caused live streaming consumption to hit astronomical heights, and then made Twitch and other platforms more known than ever. Everybody was inside watching someone probably play Among Us at least once during the lockdown. It was inescapable. Namely, what came out of this era of live streaming was the rise of what I would consider the personality-driven streamers. Now, what I mean by this is that most streamers, the top ones that is, pre-pandemic, usually came from these ex-esport pros turned streamers. It was people who played professionally and that usually topped the platform, or people known for just being really good at video games. Of course, you had notable streamers that had no esport backgrounds and were driven solely by personality or just chatting content. Pokimane, Dr. Disrespect, Austin Show, Trainwrecks, Hassan, Miz, or even guys who had been on a platform forever like Soda Poppin'. But not a single one of them at this time, to be completely blunt, would even have a chance or remotely enter the mainstream like Ninja did at the time. And it's no knock to them. Pre-pandemic Twitch and live stream were viewed so differently than they are now. The shift though was real, and by the end of the lockdown, what live stream became changed seemingly overnight. Creators like Aiden Ross and Kai brought this entirely new audience to live streaming, labeled by many as the W/L community, due to them using W or L in chat to react to stuff instead of Twitch emotes. And I think this was the time period where the idea of becoming a streamer wasn't limited anymore to just gaming. You didn't have to be some ex-esports player or someone who grinded the same game for years to make a viable career out of this medium. It became an accessible means of entertainment due to the complete overtake of just chatting or personality-driven content during this time period. And once the lockdown ended, it became even more apparent. Namely, with the streamer who I truly believe is the first internet personality truly to be seen in the majority of the youth in America at the very least as quote-unquote cool. Enter Kai Cenat. Kai, in my opinion, is the most polarizing streamer and honestly one of the most revolutionary streamers out there. Ninja bridges the gap commercially and what live streamers could be. Kai bridges the gap culturally in a way that we're still in the midst of. I'm not saying Kai is the greatest streamer ever, and I'm not saying everyone who doesn't watch him is missing out. He can be annoying at times, but with that, he can also be hilarious and knows how to create and present compelling content. Not to say all his content is unique or has been done before or even done better. He still has managed though to make one of the most creative and lucrative careers in the live streaming space ever. He's won Streamer of the Year from the Streamies and the Streamer Awards, which is like the equivalent of winning an NBA championship back to back. He has a necessary accessory to be regarded with importance in this medium, for sure. But let's dial back a tiny bit. We'll get all into that in a second. Remember how earlier we were talking about how live streaming or culture, or even as a community, was always viewed in this box of nerd culture or gaming culture, or is just esports or just generally the video game environment. What launched Kai into superstardom was his ability to cultivate a completely different demographic into the world of live streaming. And to get out of the way so I don't have an LSF dweeb or some 12-year-old kid with 20 hours a day on TikTok who views this out of context and starts calling me stupid, obviously, I'm aware that it was not just Kai who cultivated this audience. People like Aiden, Speed, Your Rage, Bruce, and the FaZe guys before they were currently a part of FaZe, just to name some. There have been a lot of streamers who have rose during the pandemic that brought this brand new demographic and just people to the live streaming world. By no means am I trying to discredit them. But when it comes to any of them being even remotely close to mainstream status, the gap between Kai and the rest of them is evident. And why is that? I think what drove Kai into the mainstream wasn't something absurd or anything we hadn't seen before. It was how it was handled and presented that was different than anyone had done before him. Of course, what I'm referring to is when Kai Cenat started getting celebrities on his streams to guest star. In 2022 alone, having celebrities like Bobby Shmurda, Lil Baby, and 21 Savage all guest star on his streams. And that was just when he was starting to get big. Now in 2024, as of writing this, we've had Nicki Minaj, Offset, Blueface, Ice Spice, Lil Yachty, Tyla, NLE Choppa, G Herbo, Drewski, and even Kevin Hart.
Oh yeah, and while editing this, he just also had John Cena on his stream, just to add more to the already insane list.
And even having cameos from guys like Drake and LeBron James, the GOAT. The GOAT! And what allows him to get all these internet celebrities on stream, seemingly at will, unlike any other internet content creator, maybe outside of Mr. Beast, who is basically just YouTube Jesus at this point, is inherently the unique environment Kai has created. Now, it's no surprise how energetic and hectic Kai's streams can be. They've even been compared to like iCarly episodes. But the one element that has stayed the test of time is the openness and comfortability the guests have on these streams, showing this true organic side of these otherwise unconnectable figures. And of course, this openness and willingness can lead to bad and really awkward moments, but when it works well and gives moments and things that you would not be able to get anywhere else at all. So you have the streamer who didn't come from esports, isn't really known for being good at any video games, is loud and abrasive, becoming the face of the industry, having worldwide superstars appear on his stream, getting sturdy with them, and sleeping over in his home for content. Completely influencing the youth with his group slang, having the biggest artists sending him songs to preview, almost serving as this like preview media outlet. And what I believe is the answer to all of this is that he's an incredibly entertaining, smart, young black man. Now, please, before you cook me, let me explain what I mean by this. And just make it clear, I am not a black man, obviously. I am a Hispanic college kid from Jersey who is talking about live streamers and other really nerdy stuff. So I'm aware that maybe I am not the best person who should be saying this. But I know at the very least my intentions aren't harmful, so I'm going to try my best to articulate this in the best way possible. Okay, hopefully that made my intentions clear. Kai being black matters because it brought a new audience that didn't really exist before he was on the scene. And I'm not saying black people weren't on Twitch or weren't streaming at all or that they didn't have a spot in these online spaces. They did. One of my favorite streamers as a kid was Etika. He was one of the creators I looked up to the most as a kid, and without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, he would still be huge if he was with us today. So with that said, bleep this all out. Rip Etika, Joy-Con boys for life, Keemstar. Anyway, Kai being African American in a space that was dominated and had for the most part white men represent in the mainstream for the longest time kind of hindered its ability to connect culturally with a lot of people. Kai and other black streamers changed that completely. The WL community is without a doubt made up of more black and brown kids than Twitch and the 7TV emos community is. Again, not to say that there isn't black streamers or viewers that aren't a part of the WL community. There is, and there has been before Kai, and they're currently there doing great. But Kai and other new black creators connecting with the whole culture has allowed live streaming, in my opinion, to hit heights that have never been really seen before. Kai having hip-hop artists mostly come on a stream and just hang out and be comfortable and be in a space that isn't completely foreign to them matters. Kai understands that, and it's the reason why Kai doesn't need to have guests in the context of playing a game like how Drake and Ninja did back in 2018. It's more direct. It's got itself out of the box of just white nerd culture, if I'm being frank. And even moving away from Kai for a second and talking about someone arguably more polarizing like Speed, with him going on a world tour and having multiple people and mobs of people swarm him wherever he goes, meeting Neymar, Ronaldo, and even the Prime Minister of Albania, which is just an insane concept to think about genuinely. All these insane interactions and crossovers from mainstream culture to the streaming world have just completely expanded. And it's not just because they're black. That isn't what I'm getting at. They are objectively entertaining people. They are able to maintain audiences of the hundreds of thousands live, rivaling TV broadcasts, and all while fixing and expanding the mold of what people thought a streamer could be 8 or 10 years ago. The basement dweller, the ex-pro, the guy who plays the same game for 12 hours straight. I believe at the end of the day, this all boils down to one word. The reason why we're seeing all this happening now, and ultimately the reason why live streaming has become quote-unquote cool. Representation. This whole dialogue all boils down to this one thing, the one main cause of why we're seeing live streaming hit new heights and to probably grow even more than it did during the pandemic. The pure fact of the matter is that with this new wave of representation and new gen creators, it has allowed new demographics of people who were never even aware of this world to become integral parts of it. And we see this with any medium or art form. Once different types of people carve out spaces for themselves in an art form, it allows it to become so much more accessible culturally to others. It doesn't just stay in the box where it was created. And that's exactly how the rapid cultural interest in streaming looks like. I know this video did majorly focus on Kai and it isn't meant to exclude other AMP members or, like stated earlier, the other various creators who have contributed to this current state. It's just that I didn't really find or think of a better example of how culturally live streaming has evolved in the last decade than Kai. He's fully absolved himself into the mainstream culture through live streaming. He's a legit celebrity. It's not like Ninja's fame, if that makes sense. They both have navigated being the face of the industry completely differently. Ninja never was really able to break out of the box of being the Fortnite guy. And to his defense, it isn't a bad thing that he didn't really want to be more than that. The dude got on Family Feud with Steve Harvey and made a bag off Microsoft. He by no means is a failure. But there was always a pretense of Ninja in any mainstream medium that he was just the Fortnite guy or he just plays video games for a living. With Kai, he's been able to present live streaming being more than just playing games in front of a camera. And that's the difference between the two. Kai's personality and his use of cultural experiences to connect with the mainstream is why he's the image of what kids think a streamer is nowadays. Not someone who plays video games, but a true public figure. As a real celebrity. A celebrity who's more accessible and relatable than 99% of the other ones. Before I wrap this video up, I don't think Kai Cenat made live streaming cool. That's just a clickbait title, to be completely honest. Live streaming to me has always been cool. It was cool to me as a kid watching Etika freak out over Smash Bros. Fighter announcements. It was cool to me seeing Cutie Cinderella host the first ever streamer awards and seeing where the media could be taken and it be presented in a serious manner. It was cool watching Ludwig do his subathon, and it somehow still is cool watching XQC play Mario Kart and telling stream snipers to break before a race starts. Live streaming will always be cool to someone in some regard, but Kai's uprise in stardom has given streaming the ability to be cool to so many more people that never even imagined it could be. The boundaries and boxes of gaming and white nerd culture of the 2010s have been removed, I feel like. There's so much more diversity in personality, content, and just people streaming more than ever. I truly think that if anyone is entertaining enough and creative enough, you could probably find an audience with live streaming. I think that in itself is important and really adds to this whole world of live streaming that we've made. Hopefully I don't get destroyed in the comments, and if you did like this video, you should subscribe and stick around because I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible, but not just force myself to talk about things I don't really care about. Anyway, I hope I worded this to the best of my abilities, and to end this video on a good note, I would just like to say, Dr. Disrespect. Thanks for watching.